the standpoint, okay, we're setting some basic standards that says, you know what, we're better than this. We expect more from our students, we expect more from our schools, and we expect more in general, because if we're going to compete, we can't compete when we're 28th on the planet in pretty much everything when it comes to our English, math, and so forth. So when we're taking a look at the Common Core itself is a Republican conservative idea. Now you can say, okay, Obama is taking over part of it and all that, that's fine, you can say that, but in Ohio here, we have 613 school districts. They set the curriculum by Ohio Revised Code. The state of Ohio doesn't. Each one of your school boards, which you elect, selects the curriculum. So if you want to hold anything accountable, you need to make sure you're electing school board members at the local level who are selecting that curriculum that doesn't give some sort of bias coming out from Washington and Obama. In Ohio last year, as part of this history, we had two bills. One was sponsored by John Adams, great name, great Marine, or great Navy SEAL. We passed, and it was actually the Senate bill version of Senate Bill 165, the Founding Documents Bill. So, as part of the curriculum that we put underneath certain grade levels, they're going to have to teach the founding documents. The left, believe me, didn't like that. They hated it. But these are ways that you can say, okay, you're going to set high standards, but you're also going to say, okay, this is what you're also going to teach. And we in Ohio are doing that. Common Core includes only mathematics, English, language arts, and states may customize 15% of the other standards. Other content standards such as social studies, science, technology, art, etc. are Ohio specific. So we in Ohio set that, not the federal government. And believe me, if we can reject $13 billion in aid coming from Medicaid, we can probably reject education money as well. We are a local control state by statute, which means in Ohio, as opposed to some of the other states, the state doesn't tell the local district specifically what the curriculum is. It's up to you and the local districts. No district in Ohio, by Ohio Revised Code, is required to adopt the Common Core or any state content standards, although districts are held responsible for the achievement test. Well, guess what? We want them to pass achievement tests so they know, basic algebra when they're at the appropriate level, when they know basic calculus and so forth. We need to have them pass those standards. Common Core is just the low tier, the way I see it. And actually, I slightly disagree here. I think Ohio is for pushing the standards higher beyond Common Core. And I think we are going to do it. Ohio has not finalized how student achievements will be assessed. In-course examinations, some are Ohio specific and some are through the PARC Testing Consortium, have been proposed for high school students. Common Core is part of an effort to raise student achievement standards. Nearly 30% of Ohio students drop out of school before earning a high school diploma. Let me repeat that. If you want to have an ignorant society that can be controlled by an Obama, let 30% of them drop out of school. 41% of Ohioans, and in this district, the school district that we're sitting in, which is one of the best in the state, 31% of them have to take remedial classes in college. 41% is the state average. So that means they're going through high school based on the low standards that we've had before. And I'm going to tell you, I think the teachers are trying to do their darndest. There's a couple of them in here today. I know, I got a couple relatives of mine that are teachers. But when 41% end up in college and they have to take a remedial class, guess what? That costs you and I as taxpayers more money because they're taking the same class over again. So when you have very low to non-existent standards, that's the result. Common Core is not a condition of federal funding unless this local school district on a local basis decided to accept race to the top funding. So that is something that is made at the local level here in Ohio. So this is where you all need to double check your local school boards to say, okay, did they accept it and what kind of things are being implemented in your local districts, because it is the citizen's responsibility to do that, the way I see it. As was said, Common Core is a joint effort of the National Governors Association, the Council of Chief State Local Officers. Most of the governors were Republican governors that were basically conservative. Common Core began in 2007 when Ohio began reviewing and updating their mathematics standards. Since Ohio was ahead of the curve, much of the Common Core mathematics standards are based on Ohio's early version. In other words, we were actually ahead of the curve on this. There aren't high enough standards, in my opinion. For instance, Minnesota, you may have said, did adopt the English Language Arts Common Core standards, but not the mathematics standards because their review showed standards were more rigorous. And I think there were some issues going on in Minnesota there. The president likes Common Core. He also likes school choice. The teachers' unions don't like that. I'm a huge school choice proponent because guess what? It drives down costs and it adds, and especially in these horrible districts as far as results, adds competition. And we all know that the free market system works. There's other things. Michelle Rhee, I think, I've met her on a couple of occasions. Bottom line is, we shouldn't be afraid of the standards. And I don't think anybody in here should be afraid of the standards. I think the standards they're okay. They're better than what we have. But I think what you should be concerned about is maybe who at the top, at the federal level, is trying to dictate certain criteria when it comes to collecting data and so forth. I want to touch on that real quickly, because here in Ohio, even the state of Ohio doesn't collect the information on the individual student. They have to collect a number because of the way the system is set up, which is what led, and I think many of you here in Ohio probably have read, the fact that I think the city of Columbus, and we had a little scandal when they were doctoring their books on attendance. Well, that happened because guess what? We don't know any of the individual students based on the way our system is set up because we don't collect individual data on the individual students. The only thing that goes to the state of Ohio is actually numbered data. So all you're getting at there is basically the data to have a general idea of what the school district is doing. I'm not sure that that's necessarily the best thing either, because then you don't have the accountability right down to the individual student. What I can say is that I think that we shouldn't be demonizing something just because that there are some issues at the federal level. We need to realize that we need to raise our standards here in Ohio, and this is a way to do it. But we also have to be vigilant about how we're handling our standards and making sure that the curriculum isn't taken over by a bunch of left-wing nut jobs who are going to try to dictate their curriculum on the rest of the society. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Representative Brenner. So that concludes the pro side.